with reports saying that they're willing to trade anyone on their team, not named Keegan Murray or Nick Clifford at the moment, meaning that any other player on their team at this moment is available for the right price. And well, for many teams, that player that they desire happens to be Keon Ellis, possibly the most coveted role player in the entire league right now, with reports saying that literally half the NBA has called about him, asking the Kings if they would trade him and the price they want for him, and apparently we know that part too, with one report saying that they want a protected first-round draft pick in return for Keon Ellis, which in my opinion would be a bit of an overpay. However, they have many more guys that literally no other team wants, primarily because of their contracts. Everyone from Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, all the way down to former Laker Malik Monk, who according to one report, the Golden State Warriors outright denied their trade proposal for Jonathan Kuminga simply because of Malik Monk's contract, which happens to be a 4-year, $78 million contract that is fully guaranteed. Guaranteed all the way to the 2027-28 NBA season, under contract for $18.7 million this season, $20.1 million next season, and then finally $21.5 during the 27-28 NBA season. So with that in mind here, could Malik Monk and the contract that would come with him possibly be a pathway for the Lakers to get Keon Ellis, kind of using a leeway to get him despite not having the best trade offer and probably not the team the Kings want to trade him to? If they would take Malik Monk with him, take the contract and simply take him off their hands, could they possibly get Keon Ellis with him, and could that be a good trade for them to make? I think there actually might be potential here, and probably a lot more than many think, as it's not being talked about right now. Talking about Malik Monk and what he's currently doing at this point, what he's doing to be viewed as a neutral at best and possibly a negative trade asset, you know, it's maybe not what you think. This season averaging roughly 12.5 points per game and 22.8 minutes per game, 2 rebounds per game and 2 assists per game to go with it, also shooting an efficient 43.5% from the field and 41.4% from 3. You know, that's pretty good and right on par with what he's done lately, even better in some aspects too. Yes, the points per game are down a bit, but his minutes per game are down a bit too. I think overall he's a very effective and efficient offensive player. However, I can't say the same thing for his defense. At this point, I gotta think that's why he's a negative trade asset or possibly a neutral one at best. Simply put, he's not and never has been a great defender. Whether you're a stats or numbers person or not, they do reflect him being a not so great defender. This season, for example, having a -1 defensive BPM rating, having a -1.3 rating on his career, obviously not too good. Or if you don't like defensive BPM, using a website like bbballindex.com for example, Malik Monk having a perimeter isolation defense grade of F or a -0.94 value rating, also having a very easy matchup difficulty rating, ranking in the 7th percentile in matchup difficulty, meaning that he takes on very easy matchups on defense and still really can't hold his ground on defense. You know, when it comes down to matching up one-on-one and taking on matchups directly, that's not what Malik Monk does well. Though I will say that he's ranked fairly well in ball screen navigation and off-ball chaser defense, meaning that he's much better at guarding off-ball and chasing guys, rather than directly trying to guard them and staying in front of them. So again, pointing to that and then the contract with it, that's why he's a neutral or maybe a negative trade asset, between the contract, the defense, and I guess his size to go with it too, as he is a fairly small guard at 6'2" with a not so great wingspan to go with it. Though again, the good thing here is that he's not a bad offensive player. In fact, he's a very good one in my opinion. He's not a bad 3-point shooter, often the reason why guys tend to become a negative trade asset or viewed as an offensive liability. That's not the case here with Malik Monk. Or on top of that, he's not an old player, only at 27, and you know he's having the prime of his NBA career, won't be declining very likely anytime soon. That's not a problem with him. It's simply about the defense and kind of where do you put him on defense, which I will admit for a team like the Lakers doesn't make him the best fit. You know, if they would trade for him and try to employ him within their rotation, it might be a tough fit on defense. I mean, they're already not a good defense, are having a lot of troubles on defense right now, and on top of that, with them having a very guard-heavy rotation, having everyone from Austin Reeves, Luka Doncic, Marcus Smart, Gabe Vincent, even Nick Smith when he plays too, quite a few guards in their rotation. You know, they currently lack wing defenders and that's what they need most. Between the point of attack and wing defense, they don't have very much of it, which unfortunately, I can't say Malik Monk would help them with. In fact, he might hurt them a bit too. Though apart from that, they do have a scoring problem off the bench. They're currently the lowest scoring team in the entire NBA in regard to points per game from their bench unit. On top of that, they're a bottom 5 offensive rated bench unit. Even apart from that, they're a bottom 5 3-point shooting team bench unit, a bottom 5 3-point shooting team in general too. Then when you tack on their lack of athletic ability, at least in their current rotation, the guys that are not in their rotation are pretty athletic, between Aduthiro, Manon, and their young talent in general. Pretty athletic, but not much athletic ability in their current rotation. So I can point to that, and then the fact that he's a good 3-point shooter, something they don't have much of, as some things to point to that would help their team and not hurt their team. So what it comes down to here is, would he be worth it if it meant getting Keon Ellis with him? And well, that obviously depends on the trade package. For trade package number 1, I'd look at a combination of Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleber, then draft compensation for Malik Monk and Keon Ellis. This would be the more draft compensation heavy trade package, including 2 expiring contracts. That's kind of the benefit here for Sacramento, using expiring contracts to help them with their future payroll and help them enter a rebuild, help them to get Monk's contract off their payroll, which they obviously want to do and obviously have not been able to find a team that will help them with it. This would be a pathway for it. Then if you would give them a future first round draft pick swap or 2, maybe include their final tradable 2nd round draft pick, maybe it would be enough to get it done. Yes, ideally they would like a young player in return for him, in return for both Keon Ellis and Malik Monk, but this would be a more financial route for them to go, helping to offload money off their future payroll and to kickstart the rebuild. So maybe and hopefully they would take it, as I actually would do this trade package. I think it would be worth it, wouldn't give up any valuable part of their rotation, wouldn't give up their final tradable first round draft pick, and would simply trade Vincent and Kleber for 2 guys that could help out the rotation. Again, Monk having the 3-point shooting and the athletic ability benefit, then obviously Keon Ellis simply being the 3&D and 2-way benefit. I haven't talked about him much, as I've talked about him a lot on my channel, but if you're new around here and don't know much about him, he is a 25-year-old 3&D player, shooting 35% from 3 this season, but is a 42% career 3-point shooter. On top of that, is averaging 1.3 steals per game in only 16 minutes per game this season, translating to nearly 3 of them per 36 minutes, is one of the best off-ball defenders in the entire NBA, one of the best defensive playmakers in the entire NBA, meaning turning defense into offense, getting steals, deflections, simply being a pest on defense. That's what Keon Ellis does, and something that the Lakers currently don't have much of. However, if Sacramento would not take that trade package and would want a different trade package, or if the Lakers wouldn't want to trade that, and if they would get Malik Monk, then they would want an offload a bad defender or 2 from their team, then maybe a package of Dalton Connect with Rui Hachimura. And yes, I wouldn't ideally like to trade Hachimura, not in general, but especially not for this trade and for Malik Monk in return. But then again, if we're getting Malik Monk, a not so great defender that we would be adding to our rotation, then kind of offloading 2 of our worst defenders on the team, between both Rui and Dalton, that might not be a terrible idea. On top of that, it would obviously be a better trade package. I think Hachimura, even at expiring contract, does have some pretty good trade value, is fairly young yet, and then with Dalton Connect being a project but showing a lot of potential during his rookie year, maybe Sacramento would like this trade package more. Maybe it would be the best trade package they could get for them, maybe the only trade package they could get from Malik Monk of actual value in return for him. I don't think it would be a terrible idea. Again, wouldn't love to trade Hachimura, but if it meant getting Keon Ellis and a decent replacement offensively for him, a very efficient 3-point shooter with Malik Monk, then it might not be a terrible pathway for them. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one, and if you enjoyed the video, then I would greatly appreciate it if you drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching, and have a great day or night.